Hello, good night, everyone. Before I start, can persons confirm that they're hearing me clearly, please?
Hearing you
I
clearly.
hear you clearly.
I'm hearing you clearly.
Okay, awesome. All right. So I am Dr. Rachel Matthew. I'm the president of the Family Life Commission, and I am one of the moderators for tonight's proceedings. And we have Miss Stephanie Christian, who is another one of our moderators. So we're going to start off with the opening prayer and scripture by Reverend Audrey Nutt, which will be followed by the welcome and opening remarks by Bishop Christine Bengushi, who is the president of the council. So, Reverend Nutt.
Let us pray. Father of all families, we bless your name this evening. We give you thanks for another opportunity to serve you. Lord, as we gather on this platform, we invite your presence to be among us. As we strive to restore families, bringing transformation to the home so that we have more respect, love, and unity among us. Lord God, I place the presenters, moderators, and all who will be sharing into your hands. We pray for your leading and your guidance. And we ask, Lord God, that you touch the ears so that we will not only hear, but we will act. So be with us now, we pray, in Jesus' name. Amen. I share a reading from Zechariah 10, verses 6, 7, and 12. I will strengthen the house of Judah, and I will save the house of Joseph. I will bring them back because I have compassion on them, and they shall be as though I had not rejected them. For I am the Lord their God, and I will answer them. Then the people of Ephraim shall become like warriors, and their hearts shall be glad as with wine. Their children shall see it and rejoice. Their hearts shall exalt the Lord. Verse 12, I will make them strong in the Lord, and they shall walk in his name, says the Lord. The word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.
Thank you very much, Reverend Nutt. We'll now have the welcome and opening remarks by Bishop Christine Bengushi, who is the president of the Jamaica Council of Churches.
Thank you, Dr. Rachel. Pleasant good evening, everyone. And as Dr. Matthews has said, she is the chair for our Family Life Commission, and we give God thanks for her. And truly, as we celebrate Jamaica Council of Churches Week, one of the activities that is being hosted, I think that this is just the first in the series of webinars that we are seeking to have, yes, through the commission. And this one is focusing on the evolution of parenting and family structure in Jamaica. And this is quite timely and needed right now as we seek for those who are parents, grandparents, and even for those who are hoping later on to become parents. And it is important for us, particularly in the kind of environment where we have been suffering from our children who are our most vulnerable, are suffering from various stages of abuse in various forms. And we give God thanks for the presenters who are here with us. And I know that they will be formally introduced later on. But let me just add my words of welcome to Dr. McGill, Mrs. Cameron Hill, and Miss Shawna-Kae Burns to this platform on behalf of the Jamaica Council of Churches and those who are here to share with us, to participate in the discussion, which is really needed. And we pray that as we, God in a special way, will truly endue each of our presenters with the knowledge and skills that they will bring to bear coming out of their experience in their particular area, and that we will be able to learn from this experience. So thank you again for joining us on this platform, and we look forward with eager anticipation to what you will have to present to us. So welcome on behalf of the Jamaica Council of Churches and of course our General Secretary, Reverend Newton Dixon, and the members of the executive. Over to you, Doc.
Thank you very much, Bishop Ngushi. So I'm going to give an overview of the webinar tonight. As Bishop said, it forms part of the week of activities for Jamaica Council of Churches week. So the week runs between June the 16th to the 22nd. And tonight we have the webinar. And the theme for tonight's webinar is the evolution of parenting and family structure in Jamaica. And it's divided into three major topics. Each topic will be presented by our resource persons. And so the first presenter will be presenting on an overview of traditional family structures in Jamaica, which include nuclear, extended, and matrifocal families. And that would be by Mrs. La-Toya Cameron Hill, who is a social worker and life trauma coach. Then the second presentation is on examining historical influences on parenting styles, such as colonialism, migration, and economic change. And that's by Ms. Shawna-Kae Burns, who is a social work educator. Then the last presentation, exploring the current landscape of family life, including single parent households, blended families, and cohabitation. And that's by Dr. Sidney McGill, who is a family therapist. Each presentation will be approximately 25 minutes, and it will be followed by a 10-minute question and answer segment. And so I'm going to introduce the first speaker. And my co-moderator, as I said earlier, is Miss Stephanie Christian, who will help me also in introducing the speakers as well. Before I go, Miss Christian, do you want to just say hello to those who have joined?
Good evening, everyone. I just want to say a warm welcome to our presenters and to all the persons who have joined. I pray that it will be a meaningful, informative evening for us all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Miss Christian. And so I hope with the presentations, we're able to, see how best as a church we can become more impactful in family life in Jamaica. And so with that, we have our first presenter, Mrs. La-Toya Cameron Hill. She is a Christian, a wife, a mother, a friend, and an entrepreneur. She is also a trained social worker and counselor with over 15 years of experience working with government and non-governmental organizations and serving especially women and children. In 2021, La-Toya started Blooming in Freedom, offering trauma recovery and life coaching services where she empowers women to have essentials they need to feel safe, heal childhood wounds, and release their power within to fulfill their lifelong dreams. Gifted with the ability to connect deeply with people from all walks of life, her courage and determination have inspired individuals locally and internationally to help them discover their untapped potential. Mrs. Cameron Hill cares deeply for the advocacy of women and children and desires to see them grow in understanding who they are. And she will be presenting on an overview of traditional Jamaican family structures, nuclear, extended, and matrifocal. Mrs. Cameron Hill, you're welcome to take the floor.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the team for having me share on such a passionate topic. Um, I want to start with the elephant in the room. I don't know how many of us are around young people and hear what they're saying about families and marriages, but I want to share some reviews from persons. There might be newer versions 2025, but these were from persons who shared to the Jamaica Observer saying that, my womb is not for rent. I am going to protect my mental health. I'm not about sharing my life or to be shackled to anybody legally, any man legally. This is what persons are saying, young people, persons who we are expecting to blossom and grow and to have families. These are what they are saying that, hey, I'm not interested in that. Another person would have said, I am not going to make the same mistakes my grandmother made. How about your lot? No, sir. That is insane. Marriage and kids are such 1980s concept. These concepts don't vibe with today's economic or social realities. They are prioritizing independence, personal growth, career achievements, um, and so they have no intention about marriage and motherhood. And statistics will tell us that the family life has been changing and still continues to change from slavery and even before slavery and now in the 21st century. Or family life have changed for various reasons as well. It could be because of the change in our societal norms. As one woman would have said, the increased focus on career path, getting an education, and having your own independence. I remember as a child, not so long ago, growing up, I said, yeah, man, I'm looking forward to my independence. I'm looking forward to coming out of my parents' house and turning my own key. I'm looking forward to paying my own rent and having my own money, not having to depend on anybody. I can do it by myself. So that's the stance of our young people today. But I want to just share with you now what we still have as families happening in Jamaica. So we have, though the divorce rate is going down, though the divorce rate, sorry, is going up, and we have fewer marriages, there's still the importance for family. The family is the place where our children learn their first words, they learn principle, they learn how to socialize with others through the family. And so, despite what our current generation is saying about marriage and family, I still strongly believe that families and marriages are still necessary in this 21st century. And so I share a little story about Family Life Ministry. If you've ever heard about Family Life Ministry came about in 1982, where 8 families saw what was happening in Jamaica. They saw the need to do something. So we like to talk the talk, but we don't have no work behind it. These set of families, 8 couples in particular, saw the need and they decided to create family
Good.
life ministries that helps persons who have problems in their marriages or even just want guidance as an individual to better themselves as they move forward into marriage. No, as I would have shared with you, having grown up in a family of my own, This is where I found the love. This is where I found some sort of identity. This is where I found an attachment. This is where I could identify to say, okay, I am from the Cameron family. This is what I've learned to do. And as my mother was a praying woman, or she is a praying woman, this is where I learned how to pray. This is where, through my grandmother, I would have learned memory verses, the famous John 3:16, or the Beatitudes. So the family plays a critical role in society. Let's talk about the nuclear family. And the nuclear family is what persons would consider the ideal family. It's a family that consists of both mother, father, and the children. And some persons would say nowadays that the nuclear family can consist of two adults, not necessarily male and female. I won't go there because we wouldn't leave here today. But nuclear family, mother, father, and children. The mother has a role to play, the father has a role to play, and the children are looking on. The children are learning based on how the mother and the father carries out his or her duties in the home. So maybe it is that the father is the breadwinner and the mother stays home. But reality is, in this day and age, both parents are working. So both parents are contributing to the economic growth of the family. Both parents are contributing to the how they raise their children behavior wise, how they teach them to love and to care for others. They also encourage them to go to church. I remember when I was growing up as a child, and while daddy wasn't a Christian, mommy was a Christian, and mommy insisted that we go to church. And so from an early age, I was introduced to the Christian living, to God, and being able to pray to Him about whatever situation I had. So the nuclear family, unfortunately, in our context today, is not the norm in Jamaica anymore. It's not the While it is the ideal family, um, is not the family that you see featured in our Jamaican context. If you do a survey, you'll find other families and other presenters will share on some of the more current family structures that we have. But the nuclear family can be seen in upper and middle class, um, among upper and middle class persons. It is also seen in our other. It's also seen in our other types of communities. So we see our Indians and our Chinese, and you see a family. While you may not see it in the low economic status in our communities, so you won't see them in the what is known as the ghetto areas. You'll more see like a common law union or a single clear union or matrifocal or extended. But the nuclear family is that family, when you check the statistics, children who are coming from the nuclear family are better off than children who are coming from other types of families. Not to say that you won't have children thriving in the other aspects of family life. However, you find that the percentage is much, much higher coming from a nuclear family because there is stability when one parent is out because of maybe work commitments, have the night shift, the other parent is at home holding down the fort until the other parent returns. So there's so much stability in that. I remember I remember when it was a particular summer and my husband had to go away for summer camp, a feature in our family. And my children anticipated when he would return home because they grew up knowing that mommy and daddy are always in the house. And when one parent leaves for an extended period of time, the absence is felt because we 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 play different roles. So when one parent is missing, that particular role is not filled or is not filled as good as if that parent was there. So, for example, my husband is the breakfast chef in the house, and the children rave about daddy's breakfast cooking. That is the top chef. So when it's my turn to do breakfast, they're not going to be so happy. But when you talk about hairstyles and dressing up and all of that, you check mommy. So we have different roles in the nuclear family, and everybody contributes to the children thriving and surviving. No, there is another type of family, the matrifocal family, also sometimes seen as a single parent family, because in this family, the woman is normally the head of the family. And there are different levels in the matrifocal family, in that you'll have mother and her children, or you'll have the grandmother as the head, the mother, and then the children. And as I said, there are all advantages to each family, but there are also disadvantages in this matrifocal family, because a mother can't be a father. No matter how she tries, she just cannot be the father. She cannot show her children how a man is supposed to behave, or how her girl should be treated. And at times it can be pressuring, because the mother is going to try to do everything to provide for the family. So she might take up a 9 to 5, but that is not sufficient, and so she had to take up another job, which means that she spends less time in the household, which means then that the children are not getting that time with mommy for their personal growth and development. So sometimes homework won't get done. Sometimes proper food will not be able to be cooked, because depending on how old the children are, they can't to go around in the kitchen. And so something is going to get left behind. This also is a time where others might come in and say, oh, mom is not around, come and let me stay with you, or that sort of thing, which can lead to children being abused, children um their childhood being robbed from them prematurely, because that care and that sheltering that they need is not there. And it's not that mommy don't love them, but mommy is trying to work so that she can provide for the family. She's trying her best, but she kind of falls short because she doesn't have that support from the father of her children. Another disadvantage that takes place in this type of family is that there is gender biases. So she goes out to look for a job, but because she named woman, they say, oh, we're not going to pay as your male counterpart. She might have the same qualifications, the same experience, and even more. But because she is woman, she is treated unfairly. So she doesn't get the benefits as her male counterparts, which can then be frustrating. She comes home from work and she's stressed, she's frustrated, and she ends up taking it out on the children. She didn't plan to, but when you're stressed, you have no control sometimes over your emotions. And so the children will suffer, and sometimes she suffers. She feels bad because I can't do any better. I'm trying, but at the same time, the balancing act is not balancing at all. Something has to give. And then we have the extended family. The extended family consists of probably a mother and a father, maybe aunts and uncles, but generations of families. Sometimes it can be sisters with their children. So it varies. What we can say is it's a family more than the nuclear family. It's more than a single parent and children. It can be single parent, several single parents and their children, or a nuclear family with aunts, uncles, grandmas, grandaunts, you name it. And one big advantage of this family is that there is support. Support that the single parent family wouldn't have, and possibly support that the nuclear family wouldn't have. There is support. The one person's at work, the other person's at home taking care of the children. They're ensuring that homework is being done. They're ensuring that the children have food to eat. They're ensuring that they go to bed on time. There is support. However, when we have different families, especially if they're from different generations, you realize that the parenting might be different. So one parent might be saying, or one family member might be saying, beat the child. Child needs to learn what is right from what is wrong. And then you have another family member saying, no, 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 that's not the way we go. CPFSA doesn't promote hitting a child. And so the child is going to grow up with different opinions of what life should be, because there's going to always be that battle between, should I stick to this aunt or this uncle, or should I lean over to this side? Because different views are coming at them based on the generation that they have within their family. But another good thing about the extended family is that they provide you with a history. So when I used to sit at my grandmother's feet, I learned of how she grew up as a child. And so our culture, our history was passed down, which I can now share with my children. So that's one major advantage. We are losing our culture, we're losing our identity with all of this social media and AI and all those things. Our children don't know how to play dandy shandy anymore, and baseball and Chinese skipping, and just running up around and having fun. They're all about the tablets and the devices and all the gadgets that they can use. I remember going to the library to research on a particular project. Our children don't know those things. They don't even know what a library looks like. They don't know what it is like to go into the library and sign up to get books on a weekly basis. They know nothing about that. Anything they need to find, they just say, oh, let me ask Google, let me ask Siri, or let me ask um, whatever the one is for the Kindle. That's how they get their information, just by talking to the device, and it tells them whatever information they need. But when they live in an extended family, they get to experience life back in the older days, what it was like to use coal stove and to cook your meal, or what our parents went through when they had to use a kerosene oil to study because they didn't have electricity, or the black and white TV. So there is advantages of being in an extended family. My challenge is when that extended family doesn't have any male figures, or it is predominantly female or predominantly male. So there's no balance as to the roles and the responsibilities of the males and the females in the house. But I liked what Family Life Ministry did. They saw a need and they sought to fix it. Our families are dying. Our children have nobody to turn to. Children are having children. In the institution in which I work with, we had to um, send home a child because of their behavior, etc. And 3 months from leaving this place, she's not pregnant. She's just 15 years of age. Who is the baby's father? A 25-year-old. So children are now having children. And the grandmothers who themselves are children are going to tell you that, hey, man, I have no time for sit down and watch no picnic. I have my life to live. And so that nurture that you'd expect from grandparents in this 21st century is not happening. We have failed as a country. We have failed as a church, I might say, because we frown upon when a mother or a woman, more so the women than the men, have gone outside and have made a mistake, and we shun them. We put them on the back bench and we tell them, say, oh, you have to make things right before you can come back in the church. Yes, we admit that they did something wrong, but here's an opportunity to really bring them into the fold. Here's an opportunity for our elders in the church to surround them and show them the way forward. And so I really, really appreciated sharing in this manner, because I believe as a church, there is something that we can do to help not only our members, but our community, because we are a church without walls. We don't just look for the persons within our church, but we go outside the church, go into the communities to help those who need help, whether it be with our parenting seminars or even practical things, helping them to get a skill so that they can feed their family and better their family. And so, in order to reduce the crime and violence in Jamaica, we have to start with rebuilding the family, rebuilding the family structure, and for the ones that are not ideal, helping them, going alongside them, mentoring them, teaching them the way that it is, or showing them the way that it is to be done. Any questions or comments?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Cameron Hill. We now open the floor for persons to ask questions or make comments. One thing I always say is that the family is the building block of society, and the quality of a community or a country is determined upon the structure of the family. I have a question. Are there any statistics that you know of that show why it is that marriage in particular is of a greater value within cultures like the Chinese and Indians versus in the Black family or in the Black culture? Because one thing I have observed is that, for instance, even before procreation, we find these cultures get married and so forth. There's marriage prior to procreation. So, do you know any statistics that might be able to point upon factors that influence such?
I don't have statistics, but what I do know for a fact is that the Chinese and the Indians, they would have grown up seeing this happen. For us in the Caribbean, we don't always grow up seeing this nuclear family. We grow up in a single parent family. And the statistics that I have shows that Caribbean countries
Mhm.
range from a 35% to 45%. Most of the families in the Caribbean are single parent families. So you could see why we would continue along that line. So you're looking at almost half of a country being single parent family. And that's, for me, is quite a lot. And if that is what we see happening, then that is what we are going to model.
Yes, the cycle will continue. I see Reverend Dixon here has a question. Reverend Dixon?
Yes, thank you very much, moderator. Good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much, Mrs. Cameron Hill, for the presentation. Thank you for tracing the different structures that we find, family structures that we find in our society. And I want to highlight, probably big up, all of the family structures that are present on this platform, nuclear, single, etc. I want though to ask a question with regards to what was just raised a while ago, a sort of segue from that, the single parent family. You raised a few issues about divorce and so on and so on. But I think what you just said is that predominantly the family structure that is present in the Caribbean and certainly by extension Jamaica is a single parent family. I want to ask you if you could speak about the ways in which this has worked. Some families have no option. I mean, the children of single parent families just have no options as a family they have found themselves in. But I've seen, and certainly anecdotally, where single parent families have brought up wholesome, strong, positive
Mhm.
young people. Can you speak very briefly about how single parent families have sustained good values and have helped to raise children? Just for a short while, can you say a little bit about some of the strengths that single parent families do have?
So for one, it's resilience. So it's that young woman or that young man, but we're focusing mostly on the woman, saying to herself that I grew up in this particular family where I didn't get a lot, or it works, but I do not want that for my children. I'm in a similar situation, but I'm not going to have my children live the way I lived. I am going to break that barrier. So she first makes that mindset, that shift, that I'm going to do better. So if it is that she's going to um get an education, get a skill. So one, she's not depending on anybody, she's not depending on handles, she's working. And two, no matter how many no's she's getting, she's still going to continue going and she's going to ask for help because she knows that she cannot do it alone. If it's even to have somebody to say, okay, can you watch my children for me because I don't want to leave them at home alone. So somebody's watching the children while she's able to work. And this is where sometimes the church comes in. So the church has an after school program. So she knows that by the time I get home, the children would have done homework and they are in a safe space. I can rest assured and I can do my job effectively because I know that my children are
Mhm.
being taken care of. And that is a burden for many family members, many single women at that. When they know that their children are not being taken care of, it bothers them, and so they're not able to carry out their work functions effectively. But one, the mindset. I am going to make a change. My children will not inherit this generation um, of living that I would have inherited. It stops with me. So she's making that shift mentally, and then she does the work um, physically. So she finds that she gets a skill, or she starts to work, and then she goes to evening classes, and then she gets support through a family member or the church to help her with this. And sometimes, even though women are the head, they still have the father maybe doing pickups. They don't play a major role in the life, but they do something to help. So they're doing the pickups and keeping them until the mommy gets home to pick them up and carry them home and continue with the cycle.
Okay, thank you very much. I know you touched on some of the points already in the examples of after school programs that can be offered by a church, but what are some other practical examples in which a church can provide support to the different types of families that exist?
Another thing would be So we spoke about support for the children, but also support for the parents. So some of these parents would have experienced trauma that they never dealt with. So, or resource persons in our churches, or counselors, or guidance counselors, or social workers, we can have one-on-one sessions, group sessions for them to share, and for us as the resource persons to give them resources and tools to help them to be not only mentally better, but physically and emotionally healthier. Um, One of the things that I can appreciate is when women come together and see that, hey, I don't have to do this alone. There are persons who would have experienced something similar. And if we together learn strategies and techniques, then we can get through this together. So that is also helpful. Other things that we can do is for those women who are not in a position at this time to work, is providing care packages for them, or helping them to get a skill so that they don't always depend on us for the care packages. They can know, gotten the skill, can now go out to do something for themselves. So I know some churches will be associated with the Heart NSTA. That is something that we can do. So we do a survey to find out what are some of the things that our women would want to be skilled in, and then reaching out to Heart to see if we can offer these courses for our mothers. And while they're at these courses, we have something for the children so that they don't have to worry that, oh, I can't come because I don't have anybody to leave the children with.
Okay, thank you very much. Does anyone have any question
May
before
I?
we move on?
Yeah.
Okay, then.
Just to add to what the presenter mentioned, within most of our churches, if not all of our churches, we have the various groups, and I think the presenter alluded to it. You have the men's fellowship, you have the women's fellowship, you have the youth group, and you have those leaders. You have godparents who promise to support and to stand by not only in spiritual issues, but also to support the family as part of their responsibility, and support in various ways, not only financial, but as much way as they can to offer that level of support. So there are arms within the church, and I'm thinking most churches that does offer that support to families, single and otherwise.
Thank you for that. That is true. I know in the Methodist Church, though, all of those groups exist. I guess the question is how to revamp those different programs and church groups because
Right.
some of them are not that active. Even like in the Methodist Church, you have the creator role, which I think is a very important um what to call it program. We have class leader system. That's a very important one too. But if they're not function as they should, then these families won't be impacted at all. But those are some very good points that you made. Miss Christian, do you want to make any comments before you introduce the next speaker?
I just like to add
It's
one other.
more, sorry, it's more of an observation that I wanted to make, and it has to do with the comments that were shared regarding, what how young people see family life and their lack of interest in raising a family, having children, and focusing more on their career, on their education. Not that there's anything wrong with focusing on education and career, but I think I heard some statistics in the media earlier on in the year regarding the fact that the growth, our population growth has slowed in Jamaica.
Mhm.
And I'm just wondering if this is how our young people are minded, to not have children and to not really focus on family life as their goal. What's going to happen to our population. I mean, we have to have children being born to replace those who age and who pass on. So I'm thinking that all of what we're doing now in the churches, in other organizations, to present to young people marriages and families that work. I think many of them have that lack of interest because of what they have seen, because perhaps in their own family, there have been issues. Some of them have, as it was mentioned earlier, have had serious trauma, have not really had any opportunity to be able to deal with it. And so they just lose interest. But really and truly, it is because of their negative experiences. So, anything that we can do as persons who know how important family life is, anything that we can do to help these young people, and hopefully as they mature, they might see the importance of family. So that was just an observation.
Yes, thanks, Ms. Christian. We have two hands up. Marcia Cohen hands was up first, and then Bishop Bengushi. Marcia, go ahead. Okay, I guess Marcia
Can you hear
doesn't
me now?
want.
Can you
Okay,
hear
yes,
me
go
now?
ahead, Marcia.
Okay,
Hearing
I'd
you.
just like to thank your team, the team, for doing this presentation. And I would like to highlight some of the programs that can be done to help our women, such as a women's empowerment program, which we had at Red Hills Methodist. I'm not sure if Sister Hill was familiar with that, but that was done under Bishop Bengoshe's guidance and leadership, where women who were not really from the church, but from the community were gathered together, and they were trained in domestic science and food and nutrition, and they were given certificates. They were trained by persons from Heart, etc., and they were certified in the field. They were encouraged to use products that were ethnic, like if it's sorrel time and it's Christmas time, then you bottle up your sorrel, you get it branded, you get your label, and it worked. It was a very successful project. I know Reverend Bishop Bengoshe will recall. But even recently, we had a function, and my daughter brought back one of these young women. She's a head chef now at JDF. And so what I'm saying is these programs, when we implement them in the church, they can have far-reaching and very beneficial outcomes. All the women who participated, they're either certified housekeepers working here in Jamaica or abroad, and still involved in the church. So I just wanted to commend that aspect of our ministry.
Okay, very good. Bishop?
I just wanted to share, based on something that Mrs. Hill would have alluded to or stated, what is happening now. Certainly, we need to revive these programs in our communities and our churches. But what is happening to us is that we get lost in the bid for economic power, which seems to be driving most of our young adults and adult persons. And I think that is where the neglect comes in with the family life. Because even where you have the nuclear family, which is the ideal, that used to be, what happens now is that both persons are pursuing this economic gain, and so the children are left to fend for themselves or at the mercy of other persons, and so they end up in situations where they are either neglected physically, they are affected emotionally and psychologically, and they also suffer sometimes from abuse because of the absence of whether one parent, extended family members who might not be there, or even because of the absence of the parents. And even in an extended family, sometimes they are abused by the very persons who are in that, because you don't have the other adult parents being there to give that kind of support, because everybody's out to make that kind of money. And I'm not surprised when many of the adult females now, are not willing to even have children, or bear family, because the focus has shifted. It has shifted, and not many of them. Whereas perhaps during my time, when persons were growing up, you look forward to saying, well, you get your career, yes, marriage is next, have a family, and so on. It has shifted. And so persons are not necessarily working towards, a lot of our females, to say they will become mothers, but they are looking at other aspects of their lives, which is economic independence. And I think that is driving quite a few persons today. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you. So we're going to end this session by the last comment by Mrs. Cameron Hill, and then Ms. Christian will introduce the next speaker.
As your the other moderator would have said, it's about showing them that there are still good marriages, and especially marriages within young people, the younger generation. So when persons always say to me that, oh, you can marry and whatever, and I'm saying I'm happily married, happily married, and we can show them as well that there can be a balance. So you can be happily married, you can be fulfilling your goals, still having your independence, in that you're not depending on your husband to provide. Your husband is providing, you're providing, you're both contributing to the family, but still you still have resources that you can spend on your own on each side. And then your children are still thriving, you're still finding time to spend with your children. So if it is that, for a teacher, you have summer breaks, you say, okay, summertime, we're spending some quality time together, we're spending quality time on the weekend, we are still meeting our goals as a family, but we're still also thriving and meeting our goals as individuals. So it can work. It takes communication, it takes prayer, it takes support, it also takes mentorship from other married couples. But it can work, and it's for us to, as a church, to show our young people that, hey, we have lived the life, we are living the life, we are proof that this can work for our society.
Thank you very much for your informative presentation. And I think we have ended time for question and answer, so we will just move right into our next presentation. And it is my pleasure to introduce to you Ms. Shawna-Kae Burns. She is a member of the faculty in the Social Work Unit at the University of the West Indies, Mona campus. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in Language, Linguistics, and Society with a minor in Cultural Studies, which she got at the University of the West Indies. She also holds a Master's of Social Work with a specialization in children and families, which she got from the University of Texas at Arlington. For the last several years, she has been involved in several workshops dealing with critical themes of self-care, stress, and conflict management and team building. Her most recent involvement centered around research within a gender and masculinity studies framework and how popular culture affects the youth, the impact of social action theater on national development, and an exploration of gendered parenting practices within Jamaica, and has recently launched her own facilitation and consultancy company, which focuses on personal community, and national empowerment. I would say that based on all that I have just shared, Ms. Burns is more than qualified to speak to us this evening on examining historical influences on parenting styles, such as colonialism, migration, and economic change. So, Ms. Burns, without any further ado, I hand over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. You saw me moving there. I was trying to adjust the lighting because I realized it was very bright in my face. So I'm hoping you all can see me well. Thank you so much for having me here. It's been such an amazing and fruitful conversation. So I'm going to share my PowerPoint that I have here, and we will begin. All righty. Is everybody able to see the PowerPoint? It's up?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, awesome. All right, so I have been given the mammoth task of just speaking a little bit about some of the historical influences on family structure and parenting styles. This is by no means kind of exhaustive, but really more of a broad brush of some of the things that have influenced us as Caribbean people as we navigate our own style of parenting and family structure to us. All right, so let me go ahead. So just some key areas of consideration that we will be looking at, or I will be looking at throughout this presentation: enslavement and colonialism. We can't speak about colonialism without actually speaking about the thing that came before the colonialism, which is the enslavement of our people. Then we move into migration, social and economic changes, some of the current impact of these things, and then some of the future implications as we move towards kind of building better family structures, or as we say, building upon what we have, because it's not been destroyed. I heard a little bit of the conversation saying we're not there. I'm going to challenge us to kind of have an understanding that some of the young people, while the statistics out there, certainly by the health ministry, has come out to say that the young people don't want no more family and they're not into it. While that is true, I do believe that they are definitely some, if not most, I would challenge to say, still are out here wanting that family life and definitely want to become better parents. All right, so we move here. All right, so one of the things here when we talk about what it is that happened, I want us to go back, right, and to what are some of the traditional elements of family structure. We are a Caribbean people. That means that our traditions didn't come from one place, right? You want to look at some of our African traditions, Southeast Asian, European traditions, for example, so many other influences, the Indian cultures, Lebanese culture, Syrian cultures, all of that came into the Caribbean space and kind of impacted. What are some of the things that was very dynamic of those traditions? You're looking at extended and communal family structure, a kinship structure, a clan culture of how it is that what family was. Family was not the nuclear family in our tradition, and even in traditions of non-African, non-Black ancestry and people that we came from, right? Or family units, the extended clanship family units, were also our agents of social and cultural socialization. This is where culture and history and traditions and all of that was passed down and passed through, right? What we had coming from many of those traditions, depending on which clan, which tribe, as some of us like to say, you had both matrilineal and patrilineal structure. That means that some of the traditions and the movement of the family unit came through the mother's line and through the family's line, who authority, who ownership and inheritance came through not only a patrilineal line, but also through the matrilineal line, which really means not only just the fathers, but also through the mothers, right? For example, we can talk about when you move now to the enslaved people, and when we go on to that, I'm going to say something. It is that for many years, it is the woman's status, the mother's status that really aided or branded the child's status. Therefore, if the child was born to a free mother, free is relative here, the child is then free. If the child was born to an enslaved mother, the child was enslaved. Some of that shifted when economic issues shifted going forward. As we said, communal, clan, and kinship wearing. And we know that that's very, very normal to us, or normal to us of a particular age coming in the Caribbean. A village raises a child. So the child is not just raised by the mother and the father, but auntie down the road, uncle down the road, cousin such and such, the teacher down the road can be the one to discipline, rear, all of those things. And it really comes from, again, our communal clan and kinship ideology of child rearing. Very, very different from what we now understand to be this nuclear understanding of child rearing, right? There was also a high importance of gender equality, as in fathers and men in the clan had their role, men in the family, and of equal importance was the woman's role in the family. Depending on which tribe or clan or kinship example you went through, there were different things. It was not just structured in a provider, hunter, and domestic, being women being domestic, man being the provider and doing the outside work. Both had their very important roles that they carried through. There was also high respect for elder and female autonomy coming from some of the traditions of the people who came to us before the enslavement of our people. All right. So enslavement and colonialism. All right. What does that really mean? We have an idea. All right. And a lot of us like to say slaves. They were not slaves. They were enslaved. Right. And it's very important to say we did not bring slaves here. We brought free people and enslaved them. Well, we did not bring, but you know what I'm saying. Right. So the enslavement system, right, mainly served economic purposes. That's what this thing was about, right? I want you to say that because there was no real understanding of needing to keep families intact, needing to keep children with their parents intact, because we brought through, let's say, fresh people were coming through the channel ever so often. So what that led to was child, if the death of a child happened, we don't business about that. It's all right. We have new people coming in soon. Now, when the abolition of slavery was really enforced in around 1834, that time, it was done before, but it really took an impact here around that time. What you looked at is there was now a shift to keeping family units, or rather keeping children alive, because understandably, children were laborers. They were just young laborers. So you wanted to keep them separate. There was lots of reports that you can go ahead and read, the Moynihan report, that really talked about how it is that we on purpose broke apart the family. So there was a loss of family traditions in that structure, and the enslavement structure, right? And as I said here, children forced into early adult labor roles. Children didn't get a chance to be children. Children had to just go in the field. As soon as you were able to help with the work, you had to work, right? So fast forwarding now, we're moving, because as again, mammoth task coming from this topic that I was given, colonialism. And depending on your Caribbean country that you were, that whoever colonized you, different things. I'm working with British here because as Jamaica, although we were colonized by the Spanish before, the British system is what had a lasting impact for us, right? What we moved and held up to an ideal is a British understanding of family structure and parenting style. And at that time, again, more push towards a nuclear, more internal, not this kind of kinship and clan culture and extended communal understanding of family, right? What you really had was what they taught us. Indeed, it should be the family. So understanding of what are some of the impact and the psyche of what we understand family to be was taught to us. And what we sometimes now still hold up to be an ideal is a colonizer's ideal of family structure, right? Now, a lot of the things that also happened was the child rearing primarily left up to the education system and out of family unit teaching, because again, we were working. We had to work to survive. So a lot of it was we really can't but send them go to school when they could go to school. Because, you know, we are still a very, very young nation if you're talking about post-colonial life, right? So education system, a lot of people just couldn't bother. Go to school, learn how to be this. We started to teach children, or we left a lot of that work on teachers, on growing up in through the educational system and having every other system but the family units, which when we look at our tradition was where the values came from, the tradition, the oral norms, all of these things, right? One thing that is very, and we can have lots of conversations about this, is our disciplinary techniques, akin to harsh punishment tactics coming from slavery, coming from historical trauma. And what that really is saying, this kind of beating thing, and listen, we're not saying don't beat because, you know, we're Caribbean people. And sometimes we believe, say, you have to lay some hands, right? Not being the same or taking it to the level of abuse. Let's just be real about what's happening on the ground and how it is as Caribbean people, we parent and we discipline, right? But if you can follow me and understand that the enslaved people were punished, were disciplined in a particular manner and in a particular way, what that means for us is that in our psyche and then pass through our generations was an idea of what discipline looks like and how we parent and what parenting means. And a lot of it is tied to that historical trauma, right? There's also now a learned criticism of traditional communal family structure and parenting styles. Again, holding up this nuclear family of this particular British or non-African, non-Southeast Asian, non-Indigenous way of doing family, of doing parenting, that we say, we can't survive like that. When in truth, that is really how we survive. A lot of our family structures is aunties and uncles and granny and cousin and everybody in one big yard. In fact, that's where big yard come from, and family yard come from, and this understanding of that space. And for many of us, that was the ideal. That is what we strived for. And we kind of, when we want to say that didn't work for us, what we want to do now is go into saying maybe woman, man, 2.5 children, dog, horse, nice fencing as the structure that we really should be striving for, when perhaps going more into that village lifestyle is what would be probably more akin to our heartbeat, right? I hope I still have everybody's attention and we're still going through. All right, so we're moving quickly. I know it's a lot to take on. We're moving to this understanding of migration, right? And again, I just want to stress that none of these things are gospel, for lack of a better term, in this crowd, right? We're doing what we could do here just to survive. And the name of the game for Caribbean people for many, many years has been survival. What that means is parental migration, right? Oh, we're gonna provide for this family. Somebody gotta move. Somebody have to go abroad. Somebody have to work, whether it is a farm working program, whether it is going away to our auntie or our uncle or our sister Claudette and brother Frenchie, who went before us, and going to England, the motherland at that time, to go and provide for our family. That's the idea of the whole remittance culture. That is where it came from, parental migration. As a result of that, what we had was what is known as barrel child syndrome, which was widely popularized in our space by Dr. Claudette Crawford Brown when he talked about the barrel child syndrome. And we can have an idea of what that means. You know, remember when we used to get the barrel them from Donawaff? Yeah, man, we still get them. Them used to in a one brown, more cardboardy type of barrel. Now it's a nice big blue drums that the barrel them come down, right? And it used to have the rice and the tuna and the toothpaste, and it used to have some material for make the paint them school uniform. And it used to have a 1-2 toy or a nice shoes for school for the school year start, right? And because that could be the way in which it is that our parents showed love, that's the only access they had to us, right? And what you had was this idea of children being raised by a barrel, right? And again, causing a particular type of shift in what family structure looks like, what parenting style looks like. Because if you can imagine, for some of us, I don't think too many young people are here, what the life was before the cell phone and before FaceTime and before the Zoom calls, when it is that maybe we had to line up down at the community payphone, or telegrams were sent and letters were written. And that was how it is that you disciplined your child, how it is that you communicated with family. If decisions had to be made, and they could make that decision in time for us to be brought together to make a type of familial decision. And oftentimes they were not, because time just wouldn't allow, right? There's also understanding of a shift from primary to secondary caregivers, which does lead to inconsistent care of those left behind. Because I'm sure we've all heard horror stories of what happens with a child, a niece, a nephew, or elder parents when we have had to leave them with somebody while we migrated or while we went ahead and worked for better. Sometimes we might treat them bad, and we honestly just don't know as the people who are abroad working, right? And we think things are going well. We're sending the money to care for our families. The families never ever get that money. And that's the reality. If it is that we have looked out and you have a really good aunt or friend or relative who is taking care of the child, taking care of our mothers, of our fathers, right? Then we have looked out. But for many of our people, it was inconsistent care, even if money was being sent, right? And that is sometimes just a natural thing that happens when you sometimes shift from a primary to a secondary caregiver, right? Also looking at fragmented family structure. Because when you have migration of a people, the family structure can become fragmented. And what does that really mean for parenting style? What is the impact? So we are coming from all of this thing, yeah? And we can look and say, okay, boy, sometimes it is not that the parent is moving out, but the whole family is migrating. What also happens when a family, a young family, a child is raised up to somewhere in high school maybe, and then they shift to another country and then shift to from a first world country or the global north, coming from a Caribbean country. The cultural shifts that happen and influences now on that family leads to fragmentation, leads to a lot of different things that we're still trying to wrap our head around as we are currently now in that system, right? And again, looking at the loss of familiar values, sometimes that are passed on from parent to child, passed on from grandparent to parent to child, to wider family structure, just because of the movement and the engaging. And it's nobody's fault really, but it is a reality on the ground that we've had to deal with, all right? So, and again, all of those things that we have looked at now has led to social and economic changes. The changing in socioeconomic status of the primary caregiver. What happens when they lose their job? What happens when they're made redundant? When they have to go abroad, even if it is the same structure, when it is that they move from full-time to part-time, what does that do for the financial aspects of our family. And we might want to beat around it and say, boy, money can't really do what love does. And I 100% agree. But let's not discount what social status, economic status does, and how it affects the family structure, how it affects how it is that we're able to parent. When a parent is going through something like this, and they and their love partner, how it shifts in terms of how it affects the children, right? And that's just something that is out of their control, right? We're looking at elements like divorce and separation, whether or not we believe in divorce. This is something that is happening in the world. And so we have to understand, what does that lead to? And there are many schools of thoughts. There's a school of thought that to stay together, push through, the family will be there. And then there's a school of thought that said, no, absolutely not, because an unhappy parent leads to an unhappy child. Therefore, if I can have two happy parents separate, it is better than having an unhappy couple, because that also affects parenting style, also affects the way in which we do family, we understand family. We have this engaging way in which we come together with the people that we have to live it with, right? In our household or not. We also have something like unfulfilled educational aspirations. What happens when I didn't get to become who I want to become? What happens when I didn't get to reach a particular place in school? How does that affect the family? My unfulfilled desire as a parent or as a parenting figure, how does that affect what is happening within my family? Right? That leads to me being able to get a particular type of job that may yield a particular type of financial benefit, which obviously trickles down to my family and trickles down to how it is that I parent. Elder care. When our grandmothers, our granddaunts, our grandfathers, granduncles, the older cousin that we grow with, when they become very old. And because we are in many ways still a culture that believes in some of those communal things, if we understand where that comes from, that they must live with the family. Or if we have the type of household that can accommodate them, what does elder care do to the family unit as is, right? How does that help or not help? Because it can help the system, right? But it also can become a very big strain on the family unit, right? Death and unexpected events that changes parenting styles, changes how the family structure is seen. And especially if it is that they were living on their own, for example, the elders, and they have to come in because they are now close to death and we're caring, and then they die. The mourning, unexpected events. Is there, oh, okay, I think somebody needs to mute. And I don't know if the tech person could look. There seems to be somebody who is like writing on the screen, because they may have that. So Dwayne, I think that's over to you, or the tech person. All right, and we're rolling along. So what are some of the current impacts, right? Just three big broad brush things, because it's really just trigger points to start our conversation. Current impact, and our speaker before spoke about it. Lowered interest in a traditional family structure, and as opposed to lowered interest in family, right? And lowered interest in having children, there might be a lowered interest in traditional family structure as they understand it, which is the nuclear family, or that idea of this being what family must look like, right? Single parent households, and a lot of benefits. And I think one of our questions came that what are some of the benefits of a single parent household? Because many of us were raised, or we were raised not with mother, father. That has never really been our reality in the Caribbean, right? You have decreasing interest in marriage, not decreasing interest in love, I might add, but perhaps a decrease in interest in marriage as it was set up to be, which is really just an economic exchange. Because if I listen to some of the young people that I teach, they're saying, I don't need a man, I don't need a wife for a financial benefit. And because they see it as a hold down, which is what one of the I think the poll people had said when they asked them, marriage is hold down, pitney a hold down. Why would I want to be held down? Right? So marriage in that particular traditional sense, how we were taught it to be, yeah, the young people really don't have an interest in that way. They do have an interest in love, though, and they do have an interest in companionship and partnership. And that can still be leveraged by us for them to understand how that must bring and has a natural leeway into family life. And there becomes, again, a strain on parent-child relationships. When the socioeconomic, when, you know, we have trauma coming from how we were disciplined and parented as children, right? In adulthood now, there's a strain on them. Some people go without talking to their parents. I remember when I was in college, when I was still a big woman, mind you, and I was in college in the States, and I remember one of my roommates who was not, and also a Jamaican, but the non-Jamaican also said, you talk to your mommy every night? I said, I try to, or at least every 2-3 days, and that was seen as strange, right? But there was also a point in our relationship where we didn't speak so often. So when the idea of communicating with our parents every day becomes strange, there is an impact on the family life, right? Because it's just not what we're used to, eh? So future implications as we move through what's happening, where can we go from here? I think all of this now becomes an opportunity for positive change. Intergenerational learning, although we have this idea that them not listen to we no more. Them not listen to the elders, them not listen to the old people, them no more. If we know how to reach them, they are absolutely reachable. Yeah? And they want to learn. They don't want to be browbeaten with how we grew up. And if we're 100% honest with ourselves, how we grew up in this family structure wasn't healthy either. And they've clocked that. And that is what they are rejecting, right? So what is it that we can learn from them? What is it that we can teach them about family, about parenting, about love? Right? Our values as a family unit, as traditional families, are not lost. However, there needs to be a pivot, right, to what familial structure now looks like. What is a change in worldview of family? And absolutely, there is a rejection of boom, boom. They don't want that. And can I still be a good family if me and my baby father left? If me and my baby mother never married? Am I still accepted? What happens? So we need to understand that the value that we had way back so-and-so with our ancestry in the kinship and the clan, maybe we need to go all the way back there, so, and not to the back that came after that, right? And there's an opportunity to be guided by the voice of the youth and understand, learning from them, what is their understanding of a parenting ideal, a familial structure, familial idea. And I think if we just sit down, lower our judgment sometimes, understand that sometimes we can't always come to them with a particular view, religious or not, and just sit down and listen to them. What it look like? What do they want this world to be? What do they want family to be? And when we listen, we can sit down and say, all right, make a reason out this thing. If the whole of we just are galang, so have baby mother, baby mother, baby mother, baby father, baby father, baby father, what will that do? And what can we learn from them, right? And that is me in terms of my quick presentation. So I'll open the floor for any questions. Hello? Hello, world?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Miss Burns. Just anyone with any questions? Just to say that you have given us a lot to reflect on.
Thank you.
and perhaps rethink. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so
The,
much.
the whole idea of the young people teaching us, you know,
Absolutely.
they're doing the conditioning. We're accustomed to the other way. And perhaps, well, my initial observation was when you first started talking was, gee man, these kids are rebellious. But I guess that
But
has
we were rebellious too, you know.
a
We
negative
were rebellious
connotation.
too. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions? Anyone?
Well,
No
as we wait for
questions for Miss.
questions, I have a comment and probably a question too. How can we how can we recondition our minds when we implement programs that are geared towards young persons or towards families? What I mean is this. A big observation that I have made is that many programs are structured toward women and
Mhm.
young girls.
Right.
And that is going to create an imbalance because we can't only be targeting our young girls and women and leaving the boys and then wondering why do men or why do these boys do not know how to speak to women? Why don't they know how to resolve conflict? Why they don't know how to do this and that? So how can because it came up in the question and answer segment after the first presentation, a lot of things were geared towards women and girls. So how can we recondition our mind as a society as we try to implement programs in the communities, in the schools, in youth centers? How can we do so? And is there a tie to somewhere in history that is causing us to behave in such manner?
All right. So I'm putting it back on us. How can we is you're right, it's us. So
Yes.
oftentimes women are looked at because women are supposedly the owners of the domestic sphere. So if it is that we want to change the family, we must target women. But then when we leave out the man them, we blame the man them. So when we are creating the policies, we are the ones who have to say, oh, okay, let's not just write something that affects the women. Let's not blame the women. Let's bring in the men. And also, many of the times when some of these programs are done up, we hear a backlash, for lack of a better term, from our men. And I want to put it back to our gentlemen. Why are you not in the room with us to say, all right, this sounds good? I'm not offering a critique, but what I'm saying is this sounds good, but how can we reach the men? And we have to have conversations with the men in order to tailor fit some of these programs to bring them in. So I think the church does a very good job, for example, of always wanting to bring in the men, right? Men's fellowship, always, the youth fellowship, big brother club, whatever. But a lot of the times, right, the young men do feel shunned by us, right? So we have to be the one to be constantly on it. We have to constantly bring in the men, and the men have to bring in themselves, right? Because we leave the work on the women, and then somehow by default, when work is done with women, here we are in the back going, what about the men? Well, sir, what about the man? And did you come to the meeting when the meeting was called to say we're going to do this youth work this workshop,
Mhm.
right? So we always have to be on it to stop and pause to say, okay, and also for men. But because it is that women as well believe that domestic fare, family life, parenting is solely the job of the woman, when we are writing these programs, sometimes we don't talk about the men. And what I want to say, is there a tie in history? Yes, there is a tie in history.
Mhm.
Because if you think about the fact that oftentimes, if the family was broken apart during the enslavement period on purpose, right?
Mhm.
I can't even get into things like breaking of the book. That's a whole different topic, right? When you get into the movement away and the man was sent out into the field and the woman was left and they were left to mind the children. Now, mind you, we were also beside the men in the cotton field picking and in the sugarcane cutting down. We were doing our own roles, right? But if it is that we told them and on purpose the family was broken apart and the black man was put down on purpose, how is it that we now want a big thing where they're here with us? When what a part of the enslavement system and a part of what colonialism did was to downtrod and break apart the families and remove the man and all of that from the situation, right? And because it is that through some of our own fault, we keep saying you are not enough if you don't have the money to mind this family, then when a man is without said money, he feels he has no role here. So him leave the room altogether.
Now, when you bring in things like feminism, wokeism, and all these isms that are coming in, that
well,
further
Miss Rachel, I am a part of those isms. I am a part of those isms. But I think one of the things that we need to, and I'll just say this quickly, is again, our understanding of what of these wokeism and feminism, again, is from a global North understanding. Caribbean feminism looks very different. And even some of the people involved in the ism, and I can be one of the people to admit that to you, don't know how to express it, right? Feminism is not about leaving out the men. It has never, ever, ever, ever been, right? But certainly not how we do it in Caribbean life, because we always worked with our men together, but understanding that equality and bringing us back to some of those same traditional values where we understood each other's role, right? So let us understand the ism in our context and not compare it to a North American Eurocentric understanding of the ism. And that is why I'm so glad that we are having it. And I really appreciate the fact that you asked us to put in a historical understanding to this parenting seminar, because a lot of the times when we do this parenting seminar, we don't put in that historical and traditional understanding, which is of great import.
Yes, it's important to know where we're coming from.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Miss Christian, there's a question in the box.
In the chat, let's see. Miss Burns spoke of the changing and breaking apart of the family, but do you think going back to an extended family life will change parenting going forward?
I can
only
only
say we
one.
only have time to answer
For that
this
one,
question.
not a problem. And I will say to you what we have to lose. Because at this point, running down an ideal that we never met, it is running now to see where it doesn't necessarily work. So I would say to us, you know, we can't move forward if we don't look back. Sankofa. All right.
Okay.
So what do we have to lose? And I think a lot of us in this room probably benefited from a village parenting lifestyle.
All right, thank you very much, Ms. Burns.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and introduce the last presenter. Dr. Sidney McGill is a marriage and family therapist. He holds a Doctor of Ministry degree in Theology and Family Systems, a master's degree in counseling psychology, postgraduate diplomas in clinical psychology and leadership development, and last but not least, a Bachelor of Science degree in animal and poultry science. Dr. McGill specializes in eco-psychotherapy, which includes nature awareness, breath work, and contemplation as integral aspects of his successful 28-year counseling career. He lives in the hills of St. Anne and conducts counseling sessions outdoors and online at his beautiful retreat and farm. He offers individual couples and group counseling sessions and is a popular presenter on relational issues in Jamaica and the Caribbean. Dr. McGill was formerly the president of the Family Counseling Center of Jamaica and Coalition in support of adolescent leadership training, mentoring program. He's a writer and was a weekly columnist for the popular column Healthy Sex 101 in the Daily Gleaner for 3 years. Dr. McGill's counseling motto is, life is too short to take it too seriously. Enjoy it responsibly. And so I welcome Dr. McGill to present on exploring the current landscape of family life, including single-parent households, blended families, and cohabitation. Dr. McGill, we welcome you. You are muted. Let me see how I can help you unmute.
Yes, I'm okay. I'm sorry about that. Thank you, Dr. Matthew. And good evening, everyone. You've been sitting for a little while. You've been sitting for a little while. So I just want you just to get you moving a little for just 2 minutes or less. Just put your hands on your knees. Yes, hands on knees. Sit up straight. And I want you to make big circles with your shoulder. Just go up to your earlobe and back. You know, when you had a busy day, your shoulders and your neck muscles get tense, eh? Yeah, so just let's do that for a moment. 3, 2, 1. Now let's go opposite direction. Go back with the shoulder, then up to your earlobe and forward. And put a gentle smile on your face while you're doing it. Just be grateful for life. Even for the negative things too. Just give that in everything. Yeah? 3, 2, 1. One more thing now. Bring your chin to your chest. And we're making big circles to the right. Breathing in. Going up. And breathing out towards the left shoulder coming down. Notice. Breathing in, going up. Notice the muscles. Muscles. Breathing in, going up. And out, coming down. Let's do 2 more of that. 1, 2. Now bring your chin back to your chest. And going in opposite direction. Breathing in towards the left shoulder. Breathing out, coming down the right shoulder. And even close your eyes if you want. Now breathing in up, breathing down, breathing in, going down, you know what I mean. In and out. 3, 2, and 1. Breathe in. And breathe out. Relax. Now just shake up the shoulders and the neck. And we begin. Okay. I'm going to tread on grounds where I know angels fear to tread, because I'm going to be looking at things that there really is not a lot of empirical data to support some of what I'm going to say. So I want you to co-create with me on this presentation. All right. So we're talking about the whole landscape of Jamaican family structure. And you pretty much know them from a long time because you experience them. But I'm just going to go through them very briefly. I'm going to look at the pressures, the pressures that is always on these structures. And then and then I'm going to look at solutions. Yes, so I'm going to try and formulate what I think are some of the solutions to some of the family problems, family structural problems that we've had since time of slavery, and it's evolved to where it is at now. All right, So we know about the single parent household. Usually it starts out with unplanned pregnancy most of the time. And so the mother is pretty young, and the father usually is also around the same age of the, or a little bit older, most of the time, than the mother. And that is how single parent households start up. Unplanned pregnancy, and there's this hullabaloo. I mean, sometimes she's thrown out of the house and she's going to have to live with another relative or a friend, etc. But eventually the family of origin comes back to, and they accept the child, you know, and thing. So single parent households is the first stage. The next stage, it evolves many times into blended families. Here it is, this mother and this baby father, they now are older, a bit older. They've been working for a while, so they have a little money. They have, you know, furniture and thing. And so still have to rent, most of them. Notice they're usually are low-income folks, you know, and so they're going to blended families, which may be a marriage or just a common law relationship, but it's blended. So the man he may bring in one or two of his outside children, and the woman does the same thing too. Yes? So now there are problems, usually problems. Like, for example, there's one case I'm dealing with right now where it's a marriage, and the man brings in his son. They bring up this boy from him was 1.5 years old. But the woman has a way of disciplining. She beat the hell out of them if they misbehave. And she does that with her own biological son, who is 15 years old. At 15, is still beating the boy. But the other boy, the stepson, refused that kind of treatment. I mean, it has gotten so bad that he attempted suicide, put a noose around his neck, and tied the other end of the rope to the branch of the tree, and then jump off. Unfortunately for him, the branch break. You know, so he spent 4 weeks in the hospital, and then just recently he ran away from home again. Yeah. So you do have lots of challenges and lots of complications when it comes to to more moral stuff and ways of disciplining, as a presenter mentioned earlier. And so it gets complicated. And then we move on to the common law, the cohabitation, common law unions. 60% of Jamaican children are born to unmarried parents. And that has long been normalized in the Jamaican society because that's a Jamaican culture. Jamaican law recognizes, however, that the rights of ownership after 5 years of cohabitation. So we're glad about that. All right. Yeah. So we are accustomed to these family structures. Let's look at what's causing them and see how we can help in our way, whether collectively or as an individual. The pressures. Along with the cultural norms that evolved from slavery to present day, we can't forget the economics and the social pressures. For example, usually they're the financial strain, high unemployment, low wages, cost of living high, so money plays a big role in how these structures are evolve, or whether or not you should be in one or another. So financial economics is a big deal, a big factor in the formation and the inclusion, whether or not you get into one of them. The other thing is social pressures. For example, gang and domestic violence, it disrupts family cohesion. And, so as much as we think it's the others over there, it's affecting us We are all one, as the motto says, yes? And it really is so. It affects us. And then there's another one, you see, that is not so local, but we have been imbibing it for such a long time because we are in this Western world, the Western world influence. I'm just putting it in my local parlance. The Western world influence of fierce, it's a fierce sense of individualism. I must pull up my socks or I tie my shoelaces. I have to do it myself. Yeah. And so we know the village is supposed to raise a child, but now we're moving on to say, well, I mean, if you trouble me, pick me, you trouble me. And so, this fierce individualism where social capital become less of an important part of our lives. It still happens in the rural communities, when it comes to insurance and things like that. Most people in the lower bracket can't afford paying premiums and insurance and so, but they depend on the community when something goes wrong or somebody dies and a family member dies, then the village, the family, extended family get involved to help out. So we're saying then that the influence of the Western world, what happens in North America and Europe, influences us in a big way. But where I want to spend my time, and I'd like to engage you as well, is the influence of technology. Still pretty young, still tentative, some of us, how we handle it. We're not experts. We're trying to maneuver and understand and be part of the whole technological advancement, learning how to adapt to it and adopt some of it. So I want us to look at that. Technology. Wow, it's a big thing. It really is a big thing. Technology influences communication. It influences parenting. It influences relationships and even cultural norms. While technology has brought many benefits, such as easier communication and access to information, it has also introduced challenges. But one of the challenges that I can think of immediately is, we talk about fast food. KFC, Burger King, yes. Fast food is supposed to be easy access to the food, yeah? Doesn't matter if it's nutritious or what. I suppose I can get it when I want it. And so if you're in the line, in the patty shop, and in the line too long, it's gonna bother you. It's supposed to be a fast access to the commodity. And so what has happened? So we have grown accustomed to fast food, and it has been a major problem for a lot of us when it comes to our obesity and our general health. But when you look at fast information, yeah, I remember when I was going to university and my father gifted me with a calculator, a very fancy calculator. Yeah. And I was so proud of this calculator because, obviously I must have been a good son to get a calculator to take it to university, and when I was in the university, the Americans, they didn't know their times table. And so they could not multiply unless they had a calculator. And I found that so strange. Here it is now. Look at what's going on with us. Our attention span is declining. And more Jamaicans have attention deficit issues. It's on our spectrum. Yes? Including myself. Notice how short the sessions are. What presentations? 25 minutes. And 25 minutes is long for some. Usually 5-10 minutes, and then you want to move on to a next issue, a next information, something that will excite me. So what's happening is that technology has brought some negative stuff like most of us are becoming dopamine addicts. What's a dopamine addict? We like to feel good. And so you can't be bored for long. You can't be focused on one thing too long. Once you get bored, eh? So you have to shift to something. Hence, TikTok is, so very popular among young people. Anyway, so let's look at some of them. One of the issues is reduced face-to-face interaction and exposure to harmful content. As a counselor, I see so many kids, 9, 8, 9, 10-year-old, who are passing around porn in class, yeah, and who have been exposed to sexual activity way before they complete their puberty. Yeah, so you see the easy access to information, and it's not under a lot of control because so much of our parents are way behind and are just ignorant, novices when it comes to handling technology and the technological devices. They don't know. The children know more than them. The children are more technological savvy than they are. So there are going to be problems. But I want to just go back to some more of the benefits because I skipped out of some of them. Things like improved communication, especially for diaspora families. I know most of my family members they're abroad, yeah? And so Christmas time, we meet together. We're having our little Christmas thing here. They're having theirs in New York and Cayman and Florida. And so, we all meet together as if we are in the one space. So kudos to technology for bringing us together. And you have the WhatsApp and Facebook and Zoom, FaceTime, etc., to facilitate those gatherings. 2, financial support. MoneyGram, Remitly, JN Money Transfer, PayPal, they all make it easier for overseas family members to send remittances, a crucial income source for many households. And virtual gatherings, and I think I mentioned that as well. Yeah, I mentioned that earlier. Virtual gatherings, yes. Now, it's changed. Technology is changing dating and relationship dynamics. Online dating apps such as Facebook Dating, Tinder, Badoo have influenced how Jamaicans meet partners, leading to more cross-cultural relationships and blended families. Yes? So that's very interesting what's going on there when it comes to dating. The social media impact. Couples face new challenges, such as mistrust due to online interactions, exposure to infidelity. Oh, that is a big one. That is how I make my money. Because one partner goes onto the other partner's phone and unearth all sorts of infidelity, and it becomes a big hullabaloo, and it needs to be resolved so social media gives greater access to those things, but it also gives greater access to finding out about these things too. Then there are the long distance relationships. Easier communication helps maintain relationships when one partner migrates, but digital jealousy can also strain the bonds. Yes. Yes. And we have this issue with smartphones. And smartphones now have become a limb that we have grown, this limb. And without this limb, we are incapacitated. So we always have to have that limb we call a smartphone. And it's so interesting. You may go out with your family and everybody has their phone. And say we go for dinner and we sit around the dining table and out comes the smartphones. Are we supposed to be having a family get together? is the family supposed to be socially interacting? We automatically, because of these devices, socially isolate ourselves. And so you talk about, so when we should be learning social skills, pro-social skills, how to relate to each other, how to be empathetic, how to manage our emotions, we don't have the opportunity. We lack a lot of that opportunities because we are so glued to our screens or devices. So that is a big struggle. Yes, there's some kids who are depressed, clinically depressed. And if you were to take away their phone, it would be a major disaster for them. Yes. Now, I am here wondering, certainly it's not the phone that's the issue. The issue is that the child is depressed. And I could go on and on about the disadvantages. For example, cyberbullying and youth mental health. Jamaican teens face online harassment affecting family dynamics as parents navigate digital safety control. This is where parents need to learn how to control digital access, and then there's the pressure to appear perfect. Social media, Instagram, TikTok create unrealistic expectations about family life, leading to stress, especially for single mothers. And then what about the elderly? The elderly, they're left behind. So they depend on the kids who are technologically savvy to help them to use their smartphones. Even if the phone is a simple phone, touching a screen is intimidating for some elders. Yeah. And then when it comes to online banking, relying on younger relatives for help is what you'll see happening. I'm going to stop there when it comes to the disadvantages or the pressure, the technological pressure that is placed on, and it is increasing by the day on families, Jamaican family structure. And now let us look at the solution quickly. That's my solution. I'm just co-creating with you. I'm thinking that a mandate for Jamaican institution is needed to support Jamaican families. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised when I heard Ministry of Labor and Social Security, they have this ad going out on, I think presently, for mentors. Ministry of Education needs to be doing that as well. But I'm a little bit biased because, no, I wouldn't, maybe I am. I'm a Christian. And I'm not apologizing. I really think that with what's going on with technology and how it is invading our lives, whether we want it or not, the church has to play a greater role. The church cannot continue playing church as it has been in the past, or they're going to lose everybody and we'll have to turn the church into some bowling alley or something else other than church. Church is so vitally necessary now. One of the major functions of the Jamaican church, as I have known it for years, is to provide community. People who are, faith-believing, people who want the best and are positive thinking people, come together for worship. The church provides many kinds of groups, whether it's the choral singing or the young people's groups. The church has to continue in a big way providing access for community, access for involvement in all the different ways that you currently are doing it, but a lot more in more creative ways. So yes, the church has to also, a big thing has to be morality and ethics has to be a big part of what the church does. Why I'm suggesting the church needs to be to scale up on that? Because the families are failing, especially those single-headed households are failing. They don't have the time to spend with the children as we used to with the village, having access to the village. Everybody doing their own thing. So church needs to grow. The pastors need to grow big time. And I'm serious about that. No matter how good you are at hermeneutics and homiletics, your spirituality has to take on go into sixth gear. Now it means spiritual practice. You're just not a typical person anymore. You have to be head and heels above the rest in order to be able to manage, to be able to be conscious of the reality that we are all experiencing, but at a higher level, a more spiritual level, where ego becomes, an issue, a non-issue, where we recognize and we can track our egos, because our egos get in the way as leaders as well. So the church has to do a lot more if we're going to save our society. If our society is going to become holistic, normal. Education, the institution, Ministry of Education has to be doing more of the same things that I just mentioned of the church. Mentoring, upgrade teachers. All teachers need to have at least a first degree knowledge of psychology. Yes, I think that has to be a basis for all teachers, because we're going to be having a lot more psychological problems, a lot more mental disorders, etc. Because so many young people, especially young men, are talking about loneliness. In America, it's an epidemic, loneliness. Yes. So when you have all these changes taking place in the society, it impacts men significantly more than women. It impacts all of them, but men, because men depend so much on what's happening socially to determine or decide, who am I as a masculine human being? Yes, the whole aspect of health, a lot more social workers needed for at-risk families, because at-risk families, they're the hardest to treat. If you're not going to their homes, you're not going to get them. They aren't coming to things like what we're having right now. Yeah. So there is a lot of work to be done, and the church is poised to do it effectively. I'm going to stop here because I think I must have run out of time. There's a lot more to be said. Perhaps some of it will come out in the question and answer time. Hello.
Thank you very much, Dr. McGill. You gave us a lot of food for thought. I'm going to encourage persons to ask questions. Don't be shy. If for whatever reason you're unable to put on your mic, there is a chat box that you can type your questions in, and Ms. Christian or myself will read the questions on your behalf. So don't be shy. Let's ask some questions to Dr. McGill. While you wait for persons to ask questions, I will start off with the concern that was brought up earlier on the decline in the fertility rates and the current approach that is being taken by the Ministry of Health. There will be numerous articles written news articles written encouraging persons to just have babies. That's it. Well, that's my interpretation of what I've read. Okay. And I have my take on it, but before I share, what is your take on it? Because that current approach will affect future family structures. So, what is your take on it?
Oh, well, the question I think is, are partners having more sex or less sex? That is certainly one I'm concerned about. I'm thinking that there is a decline because of the influence of pornography and its accessibility. I think because so much of the extramarital sexual activity begins on the screen, so much of it happens there. And it's because it's so easily accessible. I think families or committed relationships, there is a bit less sex, especially for those. Now, this is all anecdotal, especially you're going to, let's say, 45 and up. Yeah, the young ones, the testosterone tend to rule them. But the fertility, I think the fertility is more of a biopsychosocial issue. Biologically, I think what's happening is that our diets is a big thing. I'm glad that they're they're promoting less sugar intake, especially in drinks, and looking at the amount of carbohydrate that you're eating, etc. I mean, so many young people I know do not eat vegetables at all. And so many families I know do not cook more than once or twice a week. And KFC, $1,000 and $1,005 or something like that. It's easy access to all of this oil and fried stuff. I really think that's a big part of it, the whole nutrition aspect of it. But I'm thinking that the government is, to Ministry of Health, etc., that they are pushing, and I'm seeing some changes there, at least in my quarter. I know men, a lot of men have issues with, trying to meet a partner face to face. Is not the in thing anymore because you fear sexual harassment. A lot of men tell me that they prefer meeting a woman online than in person first. Yes. So I suspect I'm trying to see if I could find answers to your question. I'm going to stop there.
Yes.
I can go on.
Yes. Well, honestly, I believe that this decline fertility is a good opportunity to initiate comprehensive sexual education, to teach about relationship skills, conflict resolution, a good segue in implementing strong programs for boys and men, instead of just driving home the point of just procreate. These are wonderful opportunity for all the things that I've just stated, right? Because all these make strong, healthy relationships, which are needed before which I believe are needed before one procreates, right? So I think those things should be pushed more than have children. That's what I believe, strongly believe that. And one thing I'm very passionate about is family. Very, very passionate about family and family structure. And so those things need to be pushed more than just having children.
Yeah, having
Yes.
quality children requires quality parenting, and so I mean, and good relationships among parents when it comes to their sexual union.
Yes. So my JCC can team with the Ministry of Education and Ministry of Health. Ideas. President and General Secretary. Ideas. So partnerships can be made. Indeed. Yes, Miss Christian, you had something to say?
Yes, I just wanted to pick up when Dr. McGill spoke about pornography. it is a huge problem. It's bigger than I think we either know or we want to admit. And it causes many problems that I don't think we're aware of. The breaking down of marriages as a result of pornography, children being exposed to material that they are not mentally able to handle, and what that does to their whole sexual development. Um, Even this whole thing of young people and how they see relationships, and the fact that they're not necessarily or initially interested in family life the way we know it. Yes. I think pornography plays a role in all of that. If for no other reason, the addictive nature of it. I went to a conference several years ago in I think it was in Trinidad, and it was mentioned that pornography is more addictive than crack cocaine, and that is a little frightening. Maybe that's a topic that we can look at to be discussed another time. But I just wanted to agree with Dr. McGill about the effects of pornography and how it affects relationships, not only sexual relationships, but relationship in general.
There is empirical data that suggests that sexual performance, especially in men, they're prone to have erectile dysfunction. Because if they're accustomed to viewing porn, they are aroused by what they see, and it gives them an intense excitation. And they're accustomed to reaching an orgasm through masturbation or whatever. When it comes to having healthy sexual intercourse, having a body in front of them that they're engaging with, they find that it does not excite them as much. And so they have to work much harder to get an erection. Yeah, some of them find that, because the thing about porn, the thing with porn is that it focuses on the genitals, and you don't watch the same porn twice. And so you constantly change, again, like we say, fast food, keep on changing. And so when it comes to having sex with your partner, which requires focus, longer focus, and it's just one body that you're looking at, they lack the discipline. That's that way we are putting it. So we really have to look into that and see how we can, as a church, as churches, preach against it, but not just only preach against the damages that it causes, but also a better alternatives. Yes, and better alternatives for me has to do with how to relate face to face with the opposite sex in a healthy, holistic way. And it doesn't have to be sex-based. In other words, that the goal to have sex with this person, but just normal, clean, healthy relationships. So it's, the church has its work cut out.
Yeah.
Yes, we have some comments in chat box. Sorry, go ahead.
Just very quickly, we tend, as church, we tend to not want to talk about matters that are uncomfortable, and sex is one of them. And I think this is not the time for us to stay away from something that is so, important. As human beings, we are sexual human beings, and there are issues, and we need to address those issues. So I don't know that it is necessarily that the church needs to do more, as in the church needs to do differently some of what we are doing, because I think as church we do a lot.
Yes.
But it is the way we do what
Yes.
we do, the approaches we take, and the concepts, and as Miss Burns said, it is us listening to the young people and allowing them to speak to us rather than we, kind of talking down to them most of the time.
Yeah.
So.
Very true.
Yes. So as families evolve, we have to evolve in the techniques that we carry out or implement. There are some
Yes.
comments in the chat box. I don't want to ignore those. So great presentation, Corda Bell Davis. Great presentations, yes. Fast food, fast living, technology age. Do we really have a problem? Fast families are quite in order. Are we just holding onto our own personal ideals? Then another person says, good night. That's Denise Logan. Good night, all. I totally agree with Ms. Christian about the negative effects of pornography, especially for our young people. And Halton Hill, yes, we live in a fast-paced world. The question we have to grapple with is whether fast is good, especially our children. And Miss Burns said, that's right. I actually think it's an opportunity to teach you. And that's in regards to the decline in fertility rate.
May I just say something about responding to fast? It's fast good. My opinion is that fast is not good. I think for me, fast is mindlessness. I think we need to sometimes, in a fast-paced world, slow down and live. Slow down and be conscious and mindful of the present moment, because we only live in the present moment, not in the future.
Right.
And so I would say I'm setting up my place here for people to come and slow down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, come and breathe easily. Come and really know what it means to live. Anyway, I've said my piece.
Yes, there's a certain population of persons that can feel excluded from the conversations we've been having. We have touched a lot on marriage and having children, but not everyone wants to be married and not everyone wants children. But these people are attached to families. So how can we help them navigate through life being attached to families, but not desiring to be married or want children? I'm not particularly even speaking about the young people who say they don't want. I'm more talking about, I guess, the older age group, so to speak, because not everyone has desire to marry. Not everyone's going to get married. So how
Yes.
do we help those persons navigate life and not feel
I
left
give you an
out?
example. My daughter, she's a psychiatrist. She doesn't want to get married and she doesn't want to have children. And so, like I spoke with her yesterday and said, well, social connection. You can't be just working. I mean, you come home, you can't even go to church because you're just too tired. Just you have the house to clean and that's other thing. You have to make the time to connect, because there is empirical data that is showing that persons who are involved in quite a number of groups live longer. So your longevity is at risk when you're not involved. That's one of the reasons, one factor why women live longer than men, because women tend to be more connected socially than men. Yes, and so I'm saying to all of those professional women, I think what's my man name, Vance, had said, I mean, cat ladies, instead of looking, trying to find a man or having a man in your life, if I have a cat, I'm fine, and so, and I'm not hitting that. I'm no problem with that. My goal is for you to be happy. The goal is to be socially connected, to be integrated in your society, and to be of an asset, in the society, that when you die, you know, one of the worst things is to have accumulated a lot of things while you're alive. Like a pest, you eat lots of stuff, you gain all kind of material things, and then you die. What benefit did your life or asset did your life produce so that when you die, this earth, this planet is better because of your living in it?
Mhm.
Yes? So those are questions, large global questions I'd like for all of us listening to really think about it, rather than just be in this narrow bubble, small bubble of your little life. The greater impact of your life is something that you need to consider more and more often. What am I leaving behind? What will endure? What are the assets that I'm leaving behind that are enduring? You know, and so, yeah, okay, said it.
Thank you, Dr. McGill. Anyone has any more questions for Dr. McGill, Mrs. Cameron Hill, Miss Burns, as we close up, because it's getting late? Any comments? There was a comment I missed in the chat box from Marcia Cohen. She said, thank you. I do agree that the church is well poised to implement relevant psychosocial interventions. So I guess we can end here with our question and answer segment. And Ms. Christian, do you have any final remarks before we go to the vote of thanks?
Just to say that you know, it has been quite an interesting evening with all the presentations, and whenever we get together in this kind of forum, you mention whatever it is we're talking about in the moment, but then other topics emerge that we know need to be addressed, and I think some other areas have emerged, and you know, we can go off and think some more about it, and as family life, perhaps have another one of these. but it has been quite informative. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for co-moderating this webinar with me, Ms.
Okay,
Christian. I appreciate
Rachel,
it.
Rachel, are you hearing me?
Yes, I'm hearing.
Yes, I didn't get a chance to raise my hand. I'm not sure what's
Okay.
happening on there, but
Okay, go ahead.
because your surname is Matthew and mine is Matthews, I thought I would access this information, this opportunity. I just wanted to say, as a trained marketer, that some of the interventions that we need to implement could be done through our Women's League, working with our young women and our girls who are usually more at church with us, and also initiating programs through our men's fellowship, and embracing the boys to get this information about how to improve family life, and you know, all the information that we can take from here and move forward into our churches, in our families and our communities. I think if the girls say to the women, they will listen more. And if the boys say to the men, they will listen more. Sometimes when you have everybody together, like, you know, they're a bit hesitant, everybody coming into the room one day, and why she's saying that when he's here, or, you know, something like that. So maybe the communication would be women with girls and boys with men, and we get more of what this has been so instrumental for us here today to go through the churches and our communities as we would like it to. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Marcia Cohen. And there are quite a bit of suggestions that were made throughout this program. Partnership with the Heart NSTA, possible after-school programs, reaching out to the resource persons in our congregation, such as psychologists, that can help in mentorship programs. And as you just said, the women's group, or instituted programs through women's group for the girls and through the men's group for the boys. So all of these things I'm noting, And I think it's important that, you know, we see how great an impact the church has on community and how much we have to twig or change certain mindsets or certain programs we already have to make a greater impact. So thank you so much for that, Ms. Cohen. I'm going to hand over to Reverend Forrester, who will give the vote of thanks. So we have come to the end of the webinar. That is a passion project, sorry, on Family Life Commission through the Jamaica Council of Churches. And Reverend Forrester is one of those members of the Family Life Commission. So Reverend Forrester, you can go ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Matthews. It is really a great evening. Great evening.
Can I see your face?
Oh, yes. You're welcome. Okay. It has been a great evening, and I have enjoyed every moment. We have had food for thought. All our presenters have done extremely well. And on behalf of the Family Life Commission of the Jamaica Council of Churches, I want to say a big thank you to all our presenters. All our presenters have done extremely well, and we are delighted to listen to such a great presentation. I would like at this time to make special thank you to some persons that are with us this evening. Special thanks to Reverend Audrey Knott, who led us this evening into the devotion exercise, which was very good and that we enjoy. Even the prayers that was prayed for us this evening. Special thanks to Bishop Christine Bengushi, who had made us welcome and have us to feel at home and that all was well. I want also to say thank you to our co-moderator, Ms. Stephanie Christian, who have done so well with our very noble chairperson of the Family Life Commission, Dr. Matthews. We appreciate both of you, and we want you to know that you have done well, and we thank you. We want to thank our presenters, Ms. La-Toya Cameron Hill. We want to thank Shawna-Kae those presenters. It was so great. They have touched my whole from a pin to an anchor, and we have come to different ideas of the Family Life Commission and all that we can do. And then Dr. McGill, who have come with the icing on the cake. I know, Dr. McGill, that you have more things to tell us tonight, but the time would not give us, but we know for sure when we listen to you that if we ask you to come back another time, you will be willing and able to come and share, because you really have some other thoughts that you want to share with us. I noted some of the things that you have said, and I noted about social pressure and the church has their role to play. Of course, the church is playing a role. And I noticed also, which I noted that you said, we have to do more. Yes, we have to do more. Yes, we can do more, but we have to face as it is. The first that come in second, when we do make able to really reach to the people that we want to reach to. I want to say a big thank you to one and all. It has, especially it has been a extremely good presentation from three presenters. I have enjoyed it, and I know that the church has some of the things in place, and we are going to be working on it, and we are going to work with the Family Life Commission to make the country that we call home a better place. I want to say thank you again. Thank you on behalf of the Family Life Commission, and you have a pleasant evening. God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you. I call upon Reverend Newton Hill to give the closing remarks.
I just got renamed. I'm going to be living on the hill.
Reverend Newton Dixon, my apologies.
That's okay. That's okay. Well, Rev, I know I'm calling you Rev. Dr. Matthew, this is the first time I've ever heard you make a mistake, so you've proven you're human. Well, I don't want to detain us for too long. We've had a very long and rich evening. The vote of thanks has pretty much encapsulated the gratitude all of us feel. I am wanting to just very quickly have us dismissed. I should say just a very quick word in commendation to the Family Life Commission in probably using the opportunity to also say that this is the work that the Family Life Commission is doing for JCC Week, which is being observed this week, June 16 to 22. We culminate on Sunday with an ecumenical worship service at Redeemer Moravian Church on Duke Street in Kingston. I'll not say much more, but to express gratitude for excellent work and look forward to continuing what we have begun or what we have continued, because I'm sure other churches, other umbrella groups, other NGOs have been doing this kind of thing. And what we really need to do is network more and coordinate more and collaborate more so we have a unified thrust and a unified impact. God bless you all, friends. And if I may, I'd like to leave a blessing with you. The Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make God's face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift the light of God's countenance upon you and give you peace tonight and forever. Amen. God bless you all. Have a
Amen.
wonderful night.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you.